Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and I'm going on a long journey of trying to complete every single Game Boy Advance game in North America. This is the story of the highs, the lows, and all the silly stuff in between for the Game Boy Advance completion experience. This is GB Ace. Game number 33, Peter Pan Return to Neverland. Oh, hello there Disney, nice to see you again. It seems like only 11 games ago that we had Chicken Little, so let's get ready for another Disney movie game. This time featuring our bratty protagonist in green, who can fly and will never grow up, Peter Pan himself. Now, when I was a kid, I did watch the Peter Pan Disney movie from time to time. However, that was the original movie. Return to Neverland is actually the sequel. Peter Pan 2, if you will. I've never seen this movie personally, but it takes place way in the future after Wendy, the girl Peter Pan is sweet on, has grown up, and now he's back again to take kids of a new generation away from their bedroom windows to go on adventures in the magical world of Neverland. And you know what? After listening to that back, that really doesn't sound too good, does it? Ugh. Moving on. This game was released in North America in February of 2002. I think. Sorry for the uncertainty, but to be honest, this was kind of a hard game to find information about. I mean, it's obvious that it's based off of the sequel film, I think the name alone checks that out, but as far as the developer and publisher credits, this was a tough one to track, as there isn't a lot known about this game, or this particular version anyway. Apparently there is a PS2 version of this game called Adventures in Neverland, developed by Doki Denki and published by, wow, Sony Computer Entertainment itself. But the GBA version was handled by Crawfish Interactive and published by Disney Interactive. The GBA version is also considered an abridgment of the PS2 game as well, which honestly makes sense because there was quite a bit of this game that felt incomplete, for lack of a better term. So knowing this was a watered down experience does make some sense, admittedly. Doesn't give me a lot of hope or faith this game will be a great experience, and after what I went through with Iron Man for the last game, I was definitely itching for something a little better, but hey, this is GB Ace, and sometimes we'll just be dealt with those kinds of cards. So our completion goal for this game is just to, well, beat the game. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, I should also state that it's also beating the game on the default difficulty, which in this case was normal mode, but there was technically a hard mode as well if you wanted something a little more challenging or potentially inconvenient. You can also adjust the number of continues you start with, which the default was 4, and I did leave it alone, although I think in future games I decided that continue adjustment is usually fair game, since you aren't affecting the difficulty of the game, just your general survivability. Anyway, let's get into the game, shall we? Getting started with the story, Peter decides to visit his good friend Wendy, who lives in London, a prospect that his partner Tinkerbell isn't too happy with. Either that, or Tink's mood is reflective of how we'll feel about this game by the end of it, which, if so, that's not too good. The game itself is a platformer of sorts where you move Peter around, you can jump, you can throw magical daggers to attack or stun enemies, and, of course, as you might expect, you can fly. Well, you can fly if you have enough of your flight meter filled up, the gold treasure meter at the top left of the screen. If you don't have any of that meter filled up at all, Peter will just say, "Oh no!" over and over again until it gets repetitive and annoying. I'll say it right now, this game did not control very well. Moving with Peter just felt kind of awkward, and the way it implemented flying, my god, what were they thinking? You would think the flying would be just free range, where you press the button in that direction and you fly in that direction until you stop pressing the button, right? Well, no, in this game's case, you press the button, move a certain distance forward in that direction, and stop before you get pushed forward again. So, kind of imagine it like a hand car, I guess, where you have to keep pumping back and forth in a very kind of, rhythmic motion. And no, I'm sorry, but that just felt completely asinine here. Aside from that, though, the first level was okay. It kind of just introduced you to the basics of the game, allowed you a small bit of exploration as you travel around the streets and buildings of London until you are pretty much ready to make progress. When you make it to the far side of the level, you'll find yourself at Wendy's house, where you end up meeting not just her, but also her kids as well? They do call her Mother after all, but she honestly doesn't look that much different from what I remember her looking in the first movie. I don't know, it has been literal decades since I've seen it, so I might just be misremembering that factor. Either way, after a brief chat, we learn that Captain Hook has returned to Neverland, Peter's arch nemesis, but he honestly doesn't seem that worried about it, at least for now anyway, as long as Hook leaves him and his friends the Lost Boys alone. Wendy's kids ask to go see Neverland for themselves. After all, their mom got to see it when she was younger, after all. Wendy is hesitant at first, but ultimately decides to let Peter take them there, just because, well, it is a wonderful place after all. Never mind the pirates that are there that could obviously throw a wrench into that plan, but movie plot has got to do movie plot things, I guess. This next level, though, oh my god, this level got me so nervous and worried about how the rest of this game was going to be for the long term, but thankfully it was just a one-off. You see, now we have to get out of London while also getting Wendy's kids to fly. However, in order to get them to fly, we have to be near them and pretty much right next to them the whole way through. However, we can't infinitely fly without getting our meter filled, and the meter runs out pretty quickly, so while you're making your way to the left, you have to make sure you collect the objects that fill the meter while keeping the kids near you, while also dodging the enemies that can bother you during those moments where you aren't flying. And remember, even when you are flying, with how the flying controls work, you can find yourself accidentally moving off screen, and if you do that, the kids will start to fall from their flying animation, and if you don't get back to them in time before they fall too far, well, in the most blunt but YouTube-safe terms I can use, goodbye, kids. I mean, the game represents this just by transitioning back to the beginning of the level, so it's not like it shows anything graphic or anything, but still, you kind of know what I'm getting at there. Anyway, this was a really irritating level and gimmick, and one I personally could have done without. It just felt really bad to do, but like I said, thankfully it was just a one-off. The next part of the game actually got a bit smoother, but keep in mind, I say smoother, not really better. I don't know, at the core, I wouldn't say this game really does a whole lot to stand apart from other platformers we've done so far. Well, except for the flying thing, but as I just went over, that's not even done well. Heck, the flying is actually even removed from these next couple of sections, as Tinkerbell seems to be missing, and as we know, Peter's fairy friend is kind of the source of his flying power. So, for the next few levels, we actually don't really have that at our disposal. We go through a couple of these tree levels, and along the way we come across a few interesting items and collectibles that are probably worth talking about. You have the generic collectible items that give you 1-ups if you collect enough of them, of course, but there are some things in addition to that. For one, if you see a gold heart icon, grab it, as that is a very nice health extension, and we like to have those here, no matter the game difficulty. You can also find these train track items every now and then, and if you manage to collect 3 of them, you'll get sent to a bonus stage after you finish the current level in progress. The first bonus I got involved Peter flying around while trying to avoid random objects and projectiles while collecting treasure. I imagine these are just done for extra lives or something, but the only thing I remember is that these stages had a very odd quirk of not playing any music, and it's pretty funny when you just straight up lose the game too. But yeah, aside from that, nothing to really write home about here. But I'll talk about the other bonus games as I find them. The last object that I found was a film reel of some kind that, when I picked it up, it said something about Movie 1 being unlocked. I'll mention this later after we finish the game, but there are 4 of these film reels in the game, and if you want to collect all of them, well, you better keep your eyes open, because they're pretty well hidden apparently. Since this was like the only one I found, and I honestly didn't really even care to find any of the other ones either. There honestly wasn't much else to really say about the tree levels though. When we do reach the end of the section, we learn that Captain Hook is responsible for Tink's capture, so we head along the beaches to look for her. Along the way, we do play another minigame, and this one was a little better, I think? Okay, it was still pretty mediocre, honestly, but at least it felt more like a minigame. It actually kind of reminded me of that one throwing minigame in Wario Land 1. you gotta draw parallels somewhere, I guess. While I was exploring, I also found one of the Lost Boys, and, well, this is actually what happened from that. Or, you know, just, wait, what? Eh?
Hey!
Hey! Hey! Man, the sound clips in this game are hilariously bad. At the very end of this section, though, I got walled for what felt like a good 20 to 30 minutes on this. I found the cage Tinkerbell was caught in, but was really unsure of what I was supposed to do to free her. I couldn't cut anything with my daggers, and I literally went through the entire stage from top to bottom to collect everything and destroy all the enemies, and still, no dice. I figured you had to do something with the coconuts that you could see on the ground, but I couldn't seem to interact with those either, so I was literally at a loss. My chat ended up finding the solution online, though, and sure enough, I was right on with the coconuts. However, you can only pick them up, though, when you are a very specific distance away from them, and not just on top of them, which was what really messed me up here. So yeah, at the end of the level, I had to shoot a couple of free throws until we broke the contraption and freed our little fairy friend. Ugh, about frickin' time, too. The next set of levels take place at a stone quarry of sorts, and yeah, that's really all I have to say about this. I'll be honest, at this point, this game was not doing much for me at all. I mean, we had the flying back at least, which was nice, despite its awkward controls, but the levels themselves were not really that interesting, to be frank. Also, the bonus games were already starting to repeat now after having only 2 of them, so nothing really to remark there either. I guess the one thing unique here was that we did have a boss battle against the bane of Captain Hook's existence, the crocodile TikTok, which I guess you could say is responsible for Hook's namesake, if you catch my drift. For this boss, you had to tire Croc out basically by wandering around and getting him to snap at you. Then, after a while, he slows down and gets tired, which is when you need to get on his back and ground pound him. We also found another Lost Boy who gave us that information, and who also told us that TikTok would be taken down in 5 hits. But I swear, I had to have hit him more than that, because it seriously felt like this fight took forever to finish. Either way though, after a while we did finally get him, and we could finally move on. However, if I felt like that boss took forever, oh man, my definition of forever was definitely going to get tested in this next part, because my god, I am not joking, this next part nearly put me to sleep on stream with how long it took. So, apparently we're looking for some mermaids or something, and we have to go through this giant cave area to find them. And my god, these levels were massive and maze-like, so a large part of my time here was just trying to find the right route to the end of the level. It just felt very slow and very tedious, and I don't know whose idea it was to make the music here what it was, but the music didn't help at all. Seriously, if you watch this playthrough back, I was seriously yawning like every 20 seconds and felt like. Heck, when watching this back to make my video script, I almost fell asleep then too, so yeah, this was just not a very good level. I had no idea what they were thinking, it was just way too long, way too tedious, and just way too uneventful. And, man, I don't even want to even talk about this level anymore, I'm getting tired. Let's just move on. We find a mermaid who lets us know what Captain Hook and his crew are up to, and we must now hurry on to Hangman's Tree, which means time for another huge cave level, again, back to back. Seriously, what were the developers thinking with this? And to top it off, this level actually adds some complexity by adding doors with specific colored locks that can only be opened by that specific colored key. And yeah, there's a lot of points in this level, or these levels, where you have to go to one extreme end to get a key, to go to another part, to open a door, to go to another part, to get to another key, to get to door somewhere else. It's... ugh. Yeah, I'm starting to think that returning to Neverland, probably not a very good idea in retrospect. Just my personal opinion. Admittedly though, this level was somehow less drowsy-inducing than the previous one. Although the better music definitely helps, so I did manage to stay awake here at least, and a little more engaged for that matter. Although I can't help but shake that a part of me kinda knew that we were actually pretty close to the end of the game though, so yeah, let's just try to push on through here. We meet up with Wendy's kids again because, oh right, they were here, but because plot is second nature to, well, everything, we must now go take on Captain Hook once and for all. So, where do we go? Well, his pirate ship, of course. These next few levels were basically nothing, though. More of the same, and if anything, they felt shorter than the last couple, which, hey, probably for the best. I even got that flying bonus game again, and I did actually complete it this time. What did I get for it, though? Honestly, I have no frickin' idea. The game has seriously done a very awful job at explaining anything. But it's probably extra lives or something. I really couldn't tell. We did have another boss fight too, though, and this one was actually kind of tedious and annoying. Although, to be fair, I guess TikTok was as well, but I actually had to do a couple of attempts on this one to find out what the hell I was even supposed to do. The trick here is you need to push the pirate close to the edge using your daggers. However, the pirate has a sword, so they block all your throws. At some point, though, a cannon will fire at you, and if you duck to avoid the blast, this will surprise the boss, giving you a chance to retaliate with your throws. You won't actually do any damage, but when you push them to the edge, they will fall off and grab it, just barely hanging on. Now, you need to use the ground pound move on the dude's fingers to get them to drop to the lower level, and then you pretty much repeat the process a few times until they fall off the ship. And yeah, that's pretty much the process here. We hold the pirate hostage, and he gives us the true location of Hook's whereabouts, so we head directly to him with no other levels in between. I know that might seem kind of random, but hey, this is the final boss, so I'm not going to look this gift horse in the mouth. Plus, as I explained before, this game was kind of an abridgment of the PS2 version, so they could have probably cut some content there. I honestly don't know. So, Captain Hook, much like the other pirate from the last level, is not going to let you get any throws in, pretty much blocking anything you throw at him, while also summoning grunt soldiers to slow your progress down. What we need here is a distraction, and since Hook is deathly afraid of crocs, old TikTok especially, we can use a conveniently placed alarm clock to make Hook fear that TikTok is in the area, as even just that ticking sound is enough to trigger his PTSD. Not that I blame him, losing your hand to a crocodile doesn't sound very pleasant. Once you take the clock and throw it behind him, Hook will lower his guard, allowing you to attack him. Just do this a couple more times, and eventually he will go down, finishing the final boss once and for all. We tell Hook to leave Neverland for good, otherwise we will teach him a dreadful lesson, one that he will never forget, and it involves geometry. Okay, not really, but I made that joke during the stream playthrough for some reason. I guess you could say the geometry lesson is finding the precise angle of my legs when we're kicking Hook's ass, because that's what's going to happen if he shows his ugly mug in Neverland again. But yeah, with that out of the way, we return to the title screen, no credits to be shown whatsoever, and wow, not even any credits in the menu either, so I guess that means game completes? I mean, I was done with it at that point, that's for sure, but yeah, kind of weird we didn't have any credits to at least symbolize that completion. And I guess there could have been credits on hard mode, but I really didn't want to see if that was the case or not, and again, I couldn't exactly find out because there's very little information on this game to begin with, so yeah, that's it, I guess. Oh boy, I was really not expecting to get another bad game so soon, especially since I had literally finished Iron Man a few hours before this, on the same day no less, so this was a very unfortunate back-to-back draw for me. And hey, at least Iron Man controlled a little better than this game, despite having flaws in other areas. Honestly, this game was much worse. Not only were the controls stiff and awkward, but some of the game mechanics were just very badly implemented. Heck, the flying, which you would think would be the most important mechanic, as that is what Peter Pan is known for, felt like the developers didn't even try for it. Almost like they spent 3 months struggling to figure out how to even do it in the first place, and just kinda gave up when it only just kinda worked and said, good as we'll ever get it. It's also just very slow and boring, as you could probably guess from the fact that I literally almost fell asleep while playing this game too. And lastly, it's hard to tell because I never saw the movie, but I have a very strong inclination and impression that this game did not do the movie justice at all. And if it did, well, it did me no favors wanting to see it, that's for sure. It just kind of felt like nothing really happened. We brought some new kids to Neverland, but never did anything with them, aside from a very badly programmed flying level, and then are just cutscene devices for the rest of the game. We lost Tink for a few levels, found a mermaid, and beat up some pirates. That's really about it. Really nothing happened here. Oh, and on the subject of the movie, that film reel I collected in the tree level? Yeah, it actually unlocks literal movie footage that you can watch on your Game Boy Advance from the actual movie. How about that? Now, I'm not sure how much of the movie is shown. I can't imagine the whole thing is on there. But I wasn't going to find out. Not just because of my lack of interest, but also copyright reasons as well. Trust me, I wasn't going to get my YouTube channel canceled because of frickin' Peter Pan Return to Neverland, that's for sure. After all, I had already a copyright strike from Scholastic back in 2009 when I named a video part the Magic School Bus of Destruction, so yeah, very much playing it safe from here on out. But yeah, that was the only film reel I collected, funnily enough. Those other ones must be hidden pretty damn well, I guess. That or I just didn't really care that much. Honestly hard to say, tempted to say, probably more of the latter, but still, both cases are still very much relevant. Okay, so let's just get to the scores. I had to give this game a 1 out of 5 for both personal enjoyability and overall quality. It was just that bad, and I don't think even playing this on a different day would have affected much. The only good that came out of this was just seeing the dumb image stills in between levels. Some of the sound effects led to some funny moments and reactions, and I guess some of the music is okay, but that's the thing. I wouldn't say any of those things were good, just okay at best, and even that's a pretty lenient layup I'm giving them here. For difficulty, I landed on a 2 out of 5. Biggest challenges are getting used to the controls for specific parts and game functions, and staying awake long enough to finish the game. Otherwise, it's pretty free, and I finished the game with like 10 lives too, so it's not very hard to keep things moving. Okay, well, let's fly on out of here and hopefully not see Peter Pan ever again, or at least for a while anyway. That's right, there is another Peter Pan game for this system, although I think it's at least handled by a different developer and team, so that should at least be somewhat of a relief. Either way, we'll be back when we play Peter Pan, the motion picture event, later on in this challenge. For now though, let's take a sneak peek at the next game we'll be playing for this challenge. Okay guys, thank you for watching this summary. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave a comment and or like on the video, as those will really help me in these videos out. And stay tuned for future summaries of this series. If you also want to watch full playthroughs of these games for this challenge, check out the video description for a full playlist of everything that's been uploaded and exported so far. And if you're curious about what I'm playing right now for the challenge, be sure to stop by my Twitch channel to see what my current progress is. Just be warned, I'll be a lot further ahead of where we are for these summaries, so keep that in mind. This has been SlimKirby in the GBA series, and I'll talk to you fine people next time. Later, folks.